Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Center Circle Podcast, Episode 2. I'm Andre Bomar, and with me today, again, is Drew Dickinson, our commentator extraordinaire.
What's
And
going on, Dre?
hey, man, just enjoying the weekend and enjoying the week coming up. I'm getting ready for this season that's shortly to take place, but we have a cup final to talk about. The Regional
Yes, we
Cup, the
do.
Georgia Regional Cup in the UPSL. Just concluded with an exciting game with Atlanta Rovers FC repeating as champions with a 2-1 victory over Club the Strongest in a what I would consider a thrilling match. And I think it tells a lot about both of those teams. But let me go ahead and get your impression first of all, your overall impressions, and then we'll get into the goals and looking at those.
Well, I'll tell you what, it was a great game, fun game. Not too much back and forth, but we'll get into that. We'll start at the very beginning. First first 5 minutes of the game, you would have thought that Club the Strongest were going to literally walk away with the Regional Cup. First 5 minutes of the game, 4 or 5 chances, really, really like not just chances, oh, the ball's bouncing in there and we got a foot on it by chance. Very nice, created chances, plays, well set up, taking the inline, put it up top, nice shots. I don't know what happened, Dre. Those first 4 or 5 chances in the first 5-6 minutes of the game, everything just kind of you don't want to. I hate the term. They took their foot off the gas, because it wasn't like the foot came completely off the gas. The foot just came off the offensive level of the gas,
Yeah.
And I don't really know what else to say when it comes to that. They had a great free kick in the second half to bring it within one. It was just the Rovers are just too much, and I'll be honest too about the Rovers. They didn't play their best. They didn't
Right,
play
right.
their best, but they played enough to be champions, and the champions that they are, and the champions that they were. They're, like you said, they repeated back to back. I was really impressed with a few different players that I haven't really had a chance to see that much of Rovers. And, it was just very defensive sound game from both teams.
Right. Yeah. Hey,
Club the Strongest are very confident in the back. Rovers, even without Palucci and Nichols, extremely confident in the back. Did you see that as well? Did you see a very defensive sound game from both teams?
yeah, I did. And last week we talked about how dour the semifinals were.
Yeah.
And I worried about that for this week because there was a lot of caution last week. But we did say that the managers, the coaches from both sides, could look at those results and come into this final with a different, outlook and a different plan. And I think that was evident from the very first few minutes that we talked about. Club the Strongest came out gangbusters and had the first 2 or 3 chances in the first 2 or 3 minutes. But I think critical for them in those first few minutes when they didn't convert, it seemed to have a negative effect for them. Like you said, I think you put it well that they seemed to take their foot off the pedal, but I think it was more kind of falling back to what they were going through in the semifinals. Kind of, okay, well, we're not getting ahead like we should. Let's we're getting nervous now. Let's tighten up and defend. And that's when Rovers came back in and boom, 2 quick goals, and it was a different game.
Yeah, 100%. Even during the broadcast, we first two quick goals. Figueroa Lopez and Sam Johnson really, Lopez's goal was beautiful. Misdirection header back from the far post, hit it back towards the near post. That's very, it looks easy because he had a lot of goal to put it to, but putting a header back to the far post, essentially, that's very difficult to do. And Johnson there picking up the trash. And I said that he was going to be crucial to them winning this Regional Cup, and he was. I expect, we say it all the time, but with this Rovers team, if they can figure out a way to get healthy and figure out a way for those wingers, they're central players, Rodriguez, Montero, and Johnson. Their jobs are they know their jobs pretty well. And I'm not saying that the wingers don't, but sometimes when the wingers get the ball for Rovers, it's go.
Yeah.
It's a little oh my gosh, what do we do? But once they get into the game and get settled down and get settled in, their confidence level from Daron to Noel out on the right side just raises sky high.
Yeah, I mean they really do take over the game, and once they get comfortable, it becomes very difficult for the opponent. And let's go ahead and get into those goals. Let's start with that first goal. This was after Club the Strongest had a good few minutes of action of attack, but they relinquished some of that control back to Rovers. And if you could just take us through that first goal.
Yeah, for sure. You see nice play out to the right side, wide open was Ramos, and he puts enough bend on it to Figueroa Lopez, who was just resting at that corner of the six, the far post corner of the six straight, and he's able to put that ball back to the near post to a wide open. I mean, the net was wide open over there, and like I said before, it is not easy to redirect a header like that. Put right on his head just like that, and you got to again take your hat off to Ramos, who put a perfectly played ball to Figueroa Lopez, who put Rovers up 1-0 early.
I think the thing that most impressed me about that goal was the lead up play.
Yes.
I think that movement, that's something that Rovers is well known for, switching the field, finding the open man. And you can look at even the club, the strongest defenders, they sort of had a wooden quality about them at certain points. They didn't know quite what to do, but that header, the execution, I used to dream about, scoring a goal like that, with
Yeah.
that kind of control with a header. And that's an expert finish there. So it really was something to see. And I think that changed the complexion of the game, and may have been a factor in Club the Strongest kind of slowing down a little bit, because I think that was a bit of a shocker. And then, of course, shortly afterwards, that second goal.
Yeah, the second goal was just
Wasn't pretty.
picking up the trash,
Yeah.
and Sam Johnson was able to do it. There are lots of plays, lots of passes inside the 18. McConan Clare, the Belize international, puts a left foot shot. And let's talk about Clare real quick before we get to the goal. His passing from that back left spot for Rovers off that back line over the middle. We always say in the broadcast, the proverbial long balls are always a waste. But if
Yeah.
you watched that final and watched his ball placement, I mean, we're not talking 10-yard passes. We're talking 30, 25, 30-yard balls over the top of the back line. And it was just, I can't explain how thrilling it was to watch someone do that one after another. But anyways, I could talk about it forever. We'll get back to the goal. He puts it across, and this is where I feel, Dre, where a lot of the post-game fiasco really came into play, because it looks like JoJo gets a hand on it, but from the strongest perspective, it hits off the American goalpost. But when you go back and watch it, you slow it down, you look at it in replay, you see that he hits it off of the soccer post, or hits off the woodwork, if you will, the crossbar, and it lays down right there inside the six, squirming around, running around, and Sam Johnson able to find it wide open right there, puts it in the back of the net. And it's one thing to get upset, and I get it. I understand the frustration, because it happened to Rovers in week 1. The ball actually hit the American football post. But if you watch 30 or 40 seconds before that, they got away with the handball inside the box. So you cannot have it both ways. And that's all I'm going to say about it, because I didn't see what the skirmish was, but what I'm hearing is that's kind of what it evolved around. But that's all I really know about it. But come on, you know as well as I do, is that you can't have it both ways.
No, and you regardless of the actions of the referee and the actions of, or how the outcome comes out on a call or a situation in the game, you have to remain a professional. You have to address things. There's different ways to address problems that you see out there. But as we saw from this goal here, I mean, we can slow it down and look at it. Of course, there was the shout for a handball that the ref did not call, and it was questionable. I thought it was a good no call.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the ball did come off the underside of the soccer goalpost, of the crossbar rather, and that was a correct call. It was a good goal, and there's no complaint that Club the Strongest can have about that conversion. And again, Rovers they're there. They have the people in the right places. There are plenty of Club the Strongest players around there, and they still couldn't get it. They couldn't control that ball to get it out, and Rovers stuck it in, and it was 2-0 early on in the game.
And I do want to mention, I don't want to beat up on the Rover or on Club the Strongest, because listen, I'm 37 years old. I've been there. I understand the passion, but you got to understand too that you're representing more than just yourself. There's such a big Club the Strongest. Los Tigres is a massive aura that revolves around more than just a few members of management. Like the boys are close. You guys are this close, and actions like that bring you a little bit further away than you really actually are. But I honestly, again, I don't want to beat up on them, because I think that they're going to realize that was a mistake. And I think that all that's going to be cleaned up, and we're going to see the Club the Strongest that we're used to seeing come March 18th. And that is a club that we are proud to broadcast for, a club that we are proud to have in the UPSL Georgia Premier Division.
Right. I mean, and that's a very good point. I mean, we've seen them play before. A very, very good team. And as we get into the second half and cover that second goal, that's a significant point to make for them. In the past, we talked about how, going down early was a very bad negative for Club the Strongest. They seem to sometimes fall apart and not be able to come back mentally to challenge in the game. Not the case this time. They hung on. The cards were stacked against them. But that second half, late on, they managed to get that goal back.
And Dre, that's twice
for those last few minutes of that game.
Exactly, brother. And I'm going to piggyback off you. They did it in week 3.
Yes, yeah.
That goal, that equalizer wasn't in the 50th minute. Cross came off the bench late and rallied the troops to get that equalizer. And man, I tell you, I was. We'll get into it as we go, but there was almost an equalizer in stoppage time. But we'll get into the third goal that Strongest were able to score, so we can get into that if you want to, Dre.
Oh yeah, definitely, because I think that's what made it so exciting. I think that the game itself started out in high gear with Club the Strongest. Rovers pegged them back, popped the 2 goals in early. There was a lot of play in the middle of the field in the coming time between the first half and the second half.
Yeah.
But towards the end of the second half, things got a little tense. A lot of emotion, but it was a good game. And Club the Strongest seemed to be getting more and more into it. And so once that free kick came up, and let's cue that up now. But
for
once we got to that free kick, let us know what your thoughts were if you were calling the game as he's lining up for that kick. And I remember, hearing, if they can peg one back, that's going to, really make the last few minutes of this game very interesting. What were your thoughts? What was going through your mind when this was being set up, first of all?
Well, when it's being set up, I see Valdivinos giving Escamilla way too much of the near post. And then you have to stop and think, well, that's and I even said it. It's so much easier said than done from that close, because you have to lift it and have it drop at the right time. And we can see right here, there's a 5-man wall, which I agree with. I think that's a perfect amount for a free kick of that distance. I think Jorge set up the wall perfectly, perfect position. And as you see here, Escamilla approaches. And Dre, he just beautifully puts it into the near post. I mean, challenged Valdivinos, challenged the wall. And one of the hardest free kicks in the sport is going over that wall and hitting it near post. And he did it with absolute ease. What a freaking goal. Good gosh.
Yeah, I mean, he had to come up over the goal. And you had mentioned that during the game that, these types of free kicks, you got to get the ball up and then have it come down and evade the goalkeeper. And it was perfection. There was nothing the keeper could do to keep that out. And so that made it 2-1. And yeah, I'd like to go into that as I think it was injury time.
It was
half when that last chance off the free kick for Club the Strongest came up. What was going through your mind there?
Okay, well, I remember how the play was like the play leading up to the free kick was a professional foul attempt by Rovers. And it was just, it got a little too out of hand. And I still, 4 days later, I still truly believe that there was no intent on what it actually became. I believe it was trying to hold the play up, professional foul,
Right.
free kick anyways, nonetheless. And
we
remember,
see it all the time.
Exactly. Things got a little out of control. I don't want to say benches clear, but players got in each other's faces. But you can see the leadership. JoJo came out of the goal, pulled his players back. Mauricio Cross, who just him and Josh Francombe have mastered the number 6 spot, and I can't wait to see them come March 18th. But I digress. But they both were telling, look, guys, he just scored a free kick and he's got another chance right here. Let's relax. We've already got a red card from the bench. And I appreciate that leadership. And Dre, I'm going to pull it up right here on my end.
Yeah. Let's take a look at that.
Just beautiful, because before we get into it, if you have a chance after we talk about the goal, if you go back and watch it and listen to the broadcast, boy, was I ready for some sparks to fly. You should have heard me on that call. I was so excited. I thought it was in.
Yeah, for the listeners, this entire game uncut is available on demand at Atlantic Soccer Media Group website under the live tab. So yeah, check it out. But let's go over this last free kick that almost sent us to extra time.
Yeah, sure. As you see right here, Escamilla, who scored about 10 minutes before from a free kick about 25 yards out, puts this one to the far post. And as you see, Sandoval all alone, and just, Andre, I'm telling you, Valdivinos may have got his hands on it, but being a good goalkeeper that he was, he didn't put his hands up, so it made it even more, exciting thing. It was going to drop in under his head, but it just goes in between that 1 foot of space between the American goalpost and the soccer goal crossbar. And I tell you what, if that would have made the back of that net move, that place would have came unglued. Absolutely unglued.
I know, and really the momentum would have been swinging. It would have been
absolutely.
And extra time, you never know. Heck, we could have been going to penalties after that, the way that these guys were playing. But it was a worthy final from both teams, I thought. And like I said before, Rovers repeating, it just shows their quality. And I think it gets better from here. And in a club the strongest, they were right there. They deserve to be there. They had the opportunity, and I think there's a lot to be said about that. But tell me.
Yeah, I want everyone at home to also remember, Colquitt was not there. Aiden Colquitt.
Yep.
Georgia Gwinnett College player. Cush Clark.
Yeah.
Still injured, and Yannick Craw still unable to find scheduling commitments away from school. But I've been told that all 3 of those players will be ready. Yannick maybe a little bit more of a question mark than Clark and Colquitt. So already, strongest are going to have a boost come 3/18.
Yeah, and I thought about that during the game. I was like, wow, they're missing Cush Clark and really some key elements to their attack. Mm-hmm. What would it have been like with them in the team? Rovers would have adjusted. They're a team, they're a quality team that would do it, but it was so close already. It could have made the difference. And like you say, with the season coming up, let's get your thoughts on both of these teams. What does this cup mean for each one of these teams going into the spring season for the UPSL, Georgia?
Well, let's start with Rovers. Coach Nico Gonzalez Perez, I'll tell you what, you want to talk about a coach who has anything he wants from his bench that he can pluck. And let's not forget, Justin Sexton injured his neck, wasn't on the roster for Sunday. Luke Sexton still having some lingering issues from the injury that he missed all of last season. And I just heard from the grapevine that he wasn't at training. So if you don't train, you don't make the roster. Ryan Paolucci still off with Chattanooga FC, and Felix Nichols still at Clayton State having some school commitments prior. Atlanta Rovers FC are a team that I think that can put themselves in cruise control. Now, I'm not saying cruise control is let's take the foot off the gas. Oh, we're going to win it. We're going to do this. Cruise control as this, if they play their game, A's, B's, C's, be on their P's and Q's, cross their T's, dot their I's. Andre, I really don't see them losing more than 1, maybe 2 games this season. That's just Sam Johnson, who I think is going to be such a bigger component for this team, along with Rodriguez, along with Noel, Carrillo, Daron. They've got so much, and you cannot forget about that midfield. Sebastian Montero, Jair Figueroa Lopez, and the best number 6 in the league right now, and he's going to get even better, and that's Josh Francombe. So Atlanta Rovers FC, they're going to be in the top 3, my prediction, come the end of the season.
All right. And what about Club the Strongest? I mean, are we going to see the best out of them that they've ever had in this division?
Yes. All caps, 3 exclamation points after the S. You know why?
Tell me, man.
I think losing on Sunday is going to piss them off. Piss them off in a way that they're not going to come and they're not going to come and be dirty. They're not going to come and foul. They're going to be, like I said earlier, they're going to be that Club the Strongest, that team that made everybody fall in love. They went on that run at the end of the season, just didn't have enough. I think the key additions from the offseason coming into the spring are going to just that little hump. Mauricio Cross, Sabo, just a little bit enough, they will make the playoffs.
Yeah, and I think you saw how much it meant to them. I mean, you know, the little scuffle at the end of the game, it's just like you said earlier. That's that passion. They really want it. It means something to them, and so they're hard at it. And I think that, you know, hopefully this will be a learning experience, and they'll take that and turn it into something positive going into the season, because they're a contender. I mean, they're an absolute contender. And so Rovers is there. I mean, we'll have to see what happens with Laminio. Atlanta United Academy is still around. I mean, from top to, I mean, what's FC Birmingham going to do? I mean, from top to bottom, it's really amazing to see what quality of teams we have. And, you know, we got a digital magazine that's going to be coming out soon that's going to have some predictions in there. So I can't wait to get that published and sent out to everybody. But it's going to preview all the teams, and we're going to have a look at that, and I'll be interested to see what the fans think also, what they think happens in the season coming up, because we got Premier Division, we got Division 1. It's going to be 2 teams coming up, only 1 going down as we grow the Premier Division. And we got the women for the first time coming up in the summer. And so there's a lot of activity here in Georgia for the UPSL, and it's very exciting. So we've enjoyed this regional cup. It's come to an exciting conclusion. And, you know, Drew, thank you for all the work you've done with ASMG. And thank you for your input here on the Center Circle podcast. So we look forward to next week. We're going to do a more detailed analysis of the season coming up. Yep. And we'll touch on Division 1 and the women as well. And we do have an academy there, academy league as well. So we'll probably touch on all of that information, and we'll have maybe 1 or 2 other pundits here talking about it. So once again, thank you for listening, and we look forward to getting with you again next week. Look for us.
And Captain McConan Clare, the Moroccan, lifts the cup once again, and they are your spring 2023 Regional Cup champs, Atlanta Rovers FC.